But the other side of hope after faith is that if I can do this, anybody can do it. There's literally hope for anybody.
For a lot of people, they feel alone when they come into the atheist community. They've left everything behind. They feel alone. They feel like the outcast.
The hope after faith has always been you can actually make your way back to a normal life.
The book has been written. The speeches have been done. And now, it is time to find hope after faith with your hosts, Jerry DeWitt and Bobby C. Today's date is December 22nd, 2016. My name is Bobby C, and joining me as always is my amazing co-host, the baddest man alive, Mr. Jerry D.
Bobby C!
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, my friend. How you doing?
Man, I'm hanging in there, man. You know, I got my 30 minutes of sleep. I'm motivated, ready to go.
You know, there is an episode of Cops in our future. There is a Hope After Faith edition of Cops. From your lack of sleep and all the craziness that ends up in your world from time to time, it is going to be absolutely amazing. I can already see you in the tank top and a pair of shorts and one shoe on and a cat by the tail, swinging it out in the parking lot, screaming at, wanting to know where Santa Claus is at.
Yeah.
It's not healthy, Bobby. The amount of sleep that you're getting is just not enough.
Well, the way I see it is I already got one half of that covered because I already live in the trailer park. So we're pretty much good to go.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you live in the nicest trailer park I've ever had the pleasure of hanging out at. I'm just going to tell you
Well,
that.
They put all the nice trailers toward the front so that when you enter the trailer park, all you see is the pretty double wides up front.
Oh, yeah. Back whenever I wrote zoning, I did it that way to where that was at the front of the trailer park.
Right.
We actually had a mobile home zone.
I believe it.
And we had special legislation for trailer parks, for mobile home parks, modular home parks.
Yeah.
And that was one of the neat things that you did was you just put all of those nice triple wides
They got them
with porches on the front.
Yeah, that's right. You put the pretty trailer up front, and then you put the rest of them, us poor people, in the back.
That's right. You put all the crackheads in the back of the park.
That's right. You doing okay, buddy?
I am doing absolutely fabulous. I am excited about Christmas. I'm excited about this time of the year. I'm going to get to spend some quality time with Kelly D and Paul Aaron. I'm very excited.
Good. Yeah. Well, I just found out that I'm going to be working Christmas Eve, so I don't get to spend some quality time with the people I work with. And
what I understand is they suck.
Hey,
I'm making that up. If they're listening, I'm totally making that up. You've never said they suck.
And
says you suck. No, they don't suck.
And if they're listening, I'm totally unemployed. So,
so we might as well just be truthful. He thinks y'all suck.
Jerry's going to have to take care of me and Ashley for a while. Well, guys, if you want to get your questions or comments on the air, you can live tweet during the show at Hope After Faith, or you can join us in the chat room on hopeafterfaithpodcast.com. I think the chat room is up and going over on the website, or you can join us in Spreaker. I see that Trav, Wendy, Paul, and Angie has shown up in the chat room over here on Spreaker, but I know that they are keeping their eyes over on the chat room on the hopeafterfaithpodcast.com site. Also, you can now listen live. The moment we go live, that player kicks up and you guys can listen live over on the website as well. So you, Jerry, are going to be spending some time with Paul Aaron. You need to make sure that you tell him that we said, hey, that we love him.
I really will, and we're hoping to do some special stuff for Patreon. But before I let it go, I see that a different Paul over in the chat room has reminded me of one of my favorite jokes. A guy drives up onto a 40-acre plot to visit with a former friend that he had made in town, and he stops out at this old abandoned mobile home out in the middle of the field walks around for a long time and doesn't see anybody. And eventually the farmer shows up, and the farmer says, "What you doing here?" And he says, "Well, I thought this is where you live." And he says, No, I live in that nice ranch house down the hill." And for the first time, the visitor looks down the hill and sees this really nice ranch house. He says, "Well, what's this old trailer doing out in the field?" And he says, "Oh, that's to keep the tornadoes away from the house."
Hey, look, it's funny how that works, isn't it?
It is kind of funny, kind of scary.
Look, I'm
Growing up
telling you.
in mobile homes, it's scary as heck.
Oh, look, I was raised in one. And
Absolutely.
even 40-mile-an-hour winds, you're like, y'all, we need to get out and get the hell out of this damn house, man.
we would go. My stepdad would have us get out of the mobile home and go and sit in the car.
Yes.
Because the car, I don't know. I think it was that you actually had in your mind, you had a chance to drive away, to escape. I don't believe it was actually more solid than the mobile home, though it may have been.
Well, I think what it came down to was that the car is grounded in rubber.
That's a good point.
And they always take the tires off the house whenever they put it up. So it's no longer grounded in rubber because they take the tires off.
Right.
But the car
be like, "Hey, can y'all leave them tires on?"
Yeah, we need to be grounded, man. You need to leave them tires on. But any house that you can hook up to a pickup and leave,
Right.
So, yeah, I had a friend that experienced that for a while. Well, we have an amazing guest this week. She's an amazing lady that I know and I know I speak for Jerry when I say that we're proud to have her as a member of the Hope After Faith team. She is our webmaster. If you are enjoying the new website, it is because of all the many, many hours that this young lady has put into making that website what it is, and she continues to improve it every single day. So we are proud to welcome our friend, our webmaster, our sister, Angie Mansfield, to the show. How are you, hon? Let me give you some applause. There we go.
I was waiting for the applause. I mean, come on.
I hit, the story of my life. I hit the button twice and it didn't play. That seems to be the story of my life.
Oh, yes.
Hit it twice and it still didn't work. And y'all take that however you need. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, we're glad that you wanted to come hang out with us and share your article with us. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, go over to hopeafterfaithpodcast.com. Angie wrote an article about how it's like a survival guide for us non-believer, godless heathens, to survive spending time with our believing family members. And because usually around this time is one of the hardest times of the year for someone who is no longer a believer, because now you're going to start spending time with family that are believers. And that can get a little frustrating, especially when you're sitting around a table and they're praying a little louder than they normally would. They announce the prayer. Come on, everybody, we're going to pray. They're announcing it like it's this big thing. So that's their way of kind of just letting you know, hey, So this is a tough time for most people. And you wrote an article to kind of help them survive. Will you talk a little bit about your article?
Sure. Excuse me. I have had pretty good luck actually with my family because when I was a kid, we really weren't all that religious. I can probably count on one hand the number of times we went to church when I was up to age 10. But then my mom got remarried and we became Lutheran all of a sudden. And I guess in the last few years, she switched over to an evangelical church. They aren't really any of the major denominations, but she has gotten into that talking about God all the time when I'm around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's passive aggression is kind of her thing.
It's that undertone.
Right.
It's the elephant in the room.
If I just talk about it a little louder, she'll understand how disappointed I am.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. And so, what type of conversations have you had, Angie? What does she know about you, and what do you know besides any passive aggressive hints? What do you know for a fact that she thinks about your situation?
Well, I know she's under the impression that I am going to hell.
She said this. She
well, she we don't really talk very well
Right.
in my family. Both sides. My dad's side of the family is just as bad. They're very closed. And trying to discuss this with my mom tends to bring out the tears, and then we shut down. We don't want to talk about it anymore. But I know that in the past she has spoken about believing that there is a hell and that bad people are going there. And when I told her that I'm not a believer anymore, she, put on her passive aggression mode and said that, well, the only thing that really makes me sad is that you won't be in heaven with me. Oh, and since there are only two directions in her mind, then
sure,
kind of gives me a pretty good idea where she thinks I'm going.
Wow.
That's kind of the same thing that my mom said to me. Said the thing that breaks my heart the most is that my only child's going to be spending all eternity in hell while I'm going to heaven.
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute, you don't get it. How can you be happy in heaven if your only child's burning in hell? That kind of doesn't work.
That's what I don't understand either. But
well, now I've heard Bobby. I've heard you say that a couple of different times, and I've heard many, many, many other people say that. Do y'all really not get how they think that they're not going to be tortured by the idea of us being in hell? I mean, are you saying that from a perspective of, obviously to us that doesn't make any sense, and it's obviously not a humanistic, approach of looking at other people's suffering, or is there a part of their theology that will make that work for them that y'all haven't been exposed to?
No, my mom thinks that God's going to wipe all the
exactly.
bad memory away.
Right. I wanted to make sure that was something that y'all had been that part of the theology was something that y'all had been exposed to
sure.
as well.
God's going to wipe any memory of me away, and I'm like, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So because God won't allow them to suffer in heaven, so that means that He would have to erase the memory of me from her.
Right.
So.
Right. And my mother, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea about that either. My mother is very, very loving. We're a close-knit family, even though we don't talk. It's kind of a strange situation, but I know that she really loves me, and the only way that I think she can rationalize it in her head is to think that God's going to wipe away all memory and she's just going to be happy up there anyway.
And it's it's a complicated, of course, y'all know me. We even talked about it in our staff meeting about me loving complication. And I even on a Skype call with a book club last night out of Atlanta, I just kept emphasizing how much I'm attracted to the idea that things are complicated. But there's a payoff in their minds. I think there's a whole lot of this that they never really talk about in nitty gritty terms. I don't think you're ever going to have a pastor get up and say, one thing that's going to be awesome about heaven is that you're not going to remember your dead children who are burning in hell. That it's implied, it's just, it's implied, but it's part of this bigger package of where there's also no more death, there's also no more crying, there's also no more loss, there's also no more cancer, there's also no more fear, there's all these other pieces. And it's a shame that the need that type of theology addresses is so intense and so pervasive that it allows us to not look at all of the other pieces that it is also suggesting. We just focus on as religious people, we just focus on the good part. Hey, there's not going to be any more death, no crying, no tears. And we don't focus on that other part. So it really, really troubles me whenever we run into someone like you're saying, Bobby, your mother, where they really do think about it and address it and are still able to go forward. That's really hurtful.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they think about it. You know, I don't think they spend any time really diving too deep into the thought process of it. You know,
exactly.
It's just something that she can throw out there and it makes herself feel better.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's why it bothers me so bad is because I think you're exactly right. 99.9% of the time they're not thinking about it, but it's that 1 second that they are brought face to face with it that you would hope it would really trigger that little part of their humanity, that it would, using biblical terms, that it would prick their conscience, it would prick their heart and go, wait a minute. Would that represent the God of love that I'm espousing most of the time?
Yeah.
Conflict with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard.
Well, I know when I was still really religious, I had an excellent ability to brush all of that aside. It's too hard. I'm just not going to think about it.
Yeah, but just doing that is not going to solve the problem.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it will.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to just brush it aside if it's too hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Well, and it's something, those really, really complicated issues come up so seldom in our everyday life when we're, as religionists, that it's from one perspective, you're brushing it off, but from another perspective, it just, it's like the deal with Iran, the deal that America made with Iran. That's an extremely important issue, but we just don't think about it every day because we're too busy trying to fight traffic to get to Walgreens to pick up our prescription.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, in your article, you talk about 5 things that people can do that if they are stuck around those family members, that are just flat out not going to let this lie,
Right.
You give 5 things that they can do to kind of help take away some of that tension and that stress. And I particularly like number 1. I mean, I enjoy it all 5, but the first one is what I always seem to go back to, and that was hold on to your compassion.
Right.
I've talked about that before, trying to hang on to your compassion. That's always seemed to help for me. Talk some more about holding on to your compassion and how maybe they can do that while being faced with, people saying, well, you can't celebrate Christmas. You don't believe in Jesus, right? How can you as a non-believer celebrate Christmas? Jesus is the reason for the season, right? How does someone hang on to their compassion when they're faced with that type of situation?
Well, I said a minute ago that my mom is very loving and she would lay down and die for either of her kids. And I try and just keep that in my mind, that the reason that she says the things she does and acts the way that she does is because she's genuinely afraid. I think she genuinely is saddened by the fact that, or by the thought that I'm not going to be in heaven with her. And it's very hard sometimes, but I try and hold on to that thought when these things come up.
Okay. Now, I know a lot of times for me, I try to remember that I was once where they are now.
Right.
I was once that fundamentalist, diehard Christian, that had the same beliefs they had. I'm just one of the lucky ones that was now, I hate to use the word smart enough, but was able to get out from underneath all the dogma, get away from that whole concept of religion. And that helps me try to be compassionate because I've been where they are. I know that my parents have good intentions behind what they're trying to do. They're witnessing because they genuinely care about me.
Right.
They just happen to believe some things that, in my opinion, are a little far out there, that I have a hard time believing. But they're doing it because they care for me. And they think that they're doing something good. Right?
Right.
So when I can focus on the fact that I used to be there and knowing their intention behind it, if that intention is a good intention, now let's keep that in mind. There are some there's not very good intentions behind it. But if you know their intent, it's easier to stay compassionate to them, especially around the holidays.
And another thing is, if you can keep that in mind also, and then when they bring up things that are really hurtful, sometimes just saying, think about, put yourself in my shoes for a minute, and that really hurts me, and here's why. Sometimes they don't realize that what they're saying does hurt.
Well, if you find one that's willing to put themselves in your shoes as a non-believer, you're better than I am.
Maybe not as a non-believer, but as a family member.
It's like, Mom, if you can for a minute, just believe Jesus don't exist.
Right.
Just pretend.
Right? Well, it is important. I think you hit the nail on the head, Bobby, that they are, if they're serious, if they're true believers and they have good intentions, then the people that you should be upset with are the true believers who aren't trying to persuade you out of your ways that they believe are going to send you to hell.
Right.
I've always said, don't be mad at the Jehovah's Witness that knocks on your door at 9:00 on Sunday morning. Be mad at all of your religious friends and relatives who aren't knocking on your door, because they're okay with you going to hell, apparently.
Yeah.
I think appreciating that motivation. I remember some time ago. Oh my gosh. Well, here's the thing. As an atheist, just one of a series of public rejections that I had, because when we left old school holiness Pentecostalism, where Kelly was now cutting her hair, wearing makeup, wearing jeans, and all of those kind of things.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, exactly. And I was letting my facial hair grow and wearing short sleeves and, that kind of stuff. There was a whole part of our world that felt like we were going to hell. I mean, and as far as they knew, we were still believers. We just were probably as lost as the Baptist, in their minds.
Oh, yeah.
And so I remember Kelly and I were at Brookshire Brothers and at the grocery. That's a grocery store, if you don't know what that is. And we bumped into our old pastor, Brother Lloyd Jean, that I talk about, in the book. And he looked at me and he says, "I just hate to see y'all in this shape." and he was sincere. I think if he was allowed to think about it for 30 more seconds, he would have broke down and cried right there in the line. And I looked at him and I just said, "Brother Jeans, I'd be disappointed if you felt any other way."
Yeah, it just breaks my heart to see you all healthy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I really would have been disappointed if he would not have been disappointed over seeing us that way, because unless he would have suddenly had some type of, lack of better words, revelation and had become a humanist, whether he was a believer still or not wouldn't have made any difference. But if he had become a humanist and was looking at us through humanist eyes, there was really no other way for him to feel but disappointed and heartbroken. And so that was very consistent with who he is. So I was serious when I said I would have been disappointed if he had not felt that way.
Yeah. Well, I've never thought of it from that perspective, but now that you mentioned it, yeah, I'm totally on board with you.
I mean,
I would have been heartbroken if my parents were not trying to witness to me.
Yeah, we're asking a lot from these people. Now, from our perspective and from a humanist point of view, it's not a lot. We're really just, in essence, looking for equality. We're just trying to be treated with respect.
Exactly.
And what we see as respectful treatment. But the reality of it is they're not humanist. If they put God first, if they put their theology, their religion first, then they are not humanist. And to expect them to act that way all of a sudden, without going through the years of transition that we all went through to get to where we're now at, is to ask a lot.
Yeah, and that's another way that we can tap into that compassion.
Absolutely.
Realizing that maybe they're not humanist.
Right.
Because I know there are many in that I was raised around in the Southern Baptist tradition that if you were a non-believer, they didn't give you the time of day. I mean, you had the plague. You were supposed to stay as far away from these people as possible. We don't want their non-belief to rub off on you or have them put a drop of their non-belief in their drink, and then you wake up the next morning and it goes to hell in a handbasket. So that is another way that we can show compassion if they're not humanist, because really and truly, deep inside, they're the one that has to sooner or later deal with the consequences that really they don't really care about humanity that much. That they care more about their God.
Right.
Whichever one they happen to believe, because everyone in the church, everybody on your whole pew has a different view of God than you do.
That's right.
So the first step in this article, Angie, was hold on to your compassion. Now, number 2, for a lot of people, you're going to consider this woo.
Yeah.
But I understand the concept behind it. And number 2 is breathe.
Yes. And if breathing exercises are woo for you, then maybe just try finding a nice quiet corner if possible and just count up to 100 or back from 100 or anything. The point is to give yourself time for your system to calm down, for your stress levels to calm down, because otherwise it's really easy to say something that you regret almost immediately.
Well, there's something to the old saying is just breathe and count to 10. When somebody upset you, just stop and count to 10. There's something to be said about that. Jerry and I talked about this several episodes ago, where we talked about stopping for a minute, taking that breath, focusing on your breath, getting into what I call meditative state. For a lot of people, that is woo-ish, and they have a hard time wrapping their mind around that. But I can tell you, there has been many, many, many times throughout my transition from being a believer to now being a non-believer and a humanist, or secular humanist, I guess I should say, that I had to stop and take a breath.
Definitely. This actually comes from my anxiety therapy. When you're getting keyed up like that, sometimes you have to stop and just focus on your breathing. Listen to yourself breathe if you can. It's a great way to calm down.
Yeah, it's a great way to back away from all the drama.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to walk away from the family. You have to walk away from the bickering, go ahead, Jerry.
Oh, no. Go ahead and finish your thought, Bob.
And sometimes your family may see that as being rude, but it's far better to walk away, collect your thoughts, get yourself together before you say something out of anger that completely blows the situation completely out of the water, and you wind up doing more damage than anything.
Right.
I completely agree. And for anybody out there who may already be so, let's see if I can. All right, I'm not going to say it the way I was going to say it.
Go ahead.
I was about to really create trouble, Bobby.
Stop and breathe and count to 10.
I'm gonna stop and breathe. I think I only need to count to 3 this time. I'm gonna save 10 for something bigger. But 1, 2, 3. If people feel like breathing is woo, what can make them feel better about it is to understand scientifically physiology is actually at play here. Whenever a person falls into the anxiety, into the adrenaline response, there is a tightness that happens in the chest. Breathing becomes more shallowed. There's a lot of different physical responses that go on that actually lessen our ability to think clearly. We become more responsive instead of rational. And so whenever we take control over our bodies, over our physiology, and begin to intentionally take deep breaths, it signals to our nervous system that it's okay to start chilling out. You can reset now. You can go back into a more peaceful, into a calmer state. We're resetting that anxiety cycle by taking those deep breaths. And so literally blood flow changes. More blood begins to go back to the brain instead of to the torso, into the chest. There's a lot of chemical reactions begin to happen that gives us the ability to think more clearly and to be more rational. So I understand how some people in our world would feel like certain things about that sound wooish, but it's really just that particular technique has been promoted more by the woo people than it has been by people who are not woo.
Right. Yeah.
It's a very legitimate, natural technique to use, and I would not have survived to this day without it.
Well, Cynic City Skeptic inside the chat room, guys, if you haven't gone and listened to that show, you really should. Says it's better to let your intellect govern your actions and words than to let your emotions do it. And that is what we're doing whenever we're taking the time to breathe. We're letting our emotions lower and we're letting our intellect, come forefront. Because it's so easy to say the first thing that pops in your head when you're angry, because at the time, your anger has you to the point to where you really don't care if you hurt that person's feelings or not. And that's not thinking rationally. So sometimes it's best to just stop and count to 10, take a couple deep breaths, let your intellect come to the forefront, and let that stressful emotion subside before you do anything, especially when you're about to spend 2 days with your family, and this is the first day that you're there, and you still have another day to go. Yeah. That's not something that you want to happen, especially on the first day. So
yeah, two days of deep breathing with the family is better than 2 weeks in jail.
Yes.
Well, something that I find interesting about this, because like, you did exactly right, Bobby, whenever you kind of, you gave a little bit of a caution there that people might consider some of this to be wooish. The way I liken it is this: is if someone picks up a medicine bottle and they take 4 or 5 capsules, and it has an effect on their thought process, on their speech, on their attitude, maybe it makes them angry and they don't speak clearly. You actually give them a pass until there's time for the medicine to wear off.
Right.
You don't judge them, you judge the medicine. And you're like, okay, well, maybe they'll be back in the right head, in another 30, 40 minutes, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever the case may be. Well, the reality of it is our bodies, our brains are able to create chemistry that is every bit as powerful as what you would take out of a medicine bottle. And once it gets into our bloodstream, once our body goes in that direction, it literally has to run its course. And so when you get up from the kitchen table and you go outside and you go for a walk, you are giving yourself time to let those chemicals process, be reabsorbed back into the body, and for you to get back into a clearer state. I mean, it really is natural. It really is chemistry.
Absolutely. Rebecca in the chat room said, I found setting boundaries of what I would take allows me to leave a conversation without anger. And I love that she brought that up. Setting boundaries.
Yes.
Because we're going to talk about number 4, and it's going to be more about setting boundaries. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angie.
Oh, no. Rebecca also said that her daughter does mindfulness for her anxiety. That's an excellent tool, too, because when you're doing that, you're thinking and really feeling everything that your body is doing. And then you can start to calm it down and realize what's actually happening.
Yes. So, guys, it may seem like woo, but let me tell you, there's a lot of science behind it.
Absolutely.
And it works. Okay. I'm living proof that just taking the time to breathe and just to calm everything down, let your blood pressure lower, let your temperature go down a little bit, because trust me, it's better to do that than to ruin a relationship for the rest of your life.
Definitely.
Jerry, you sound like you was getting ready to say something, buddy.
Oh, no. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it until a little bit later on. But thank you for hearing me.
Oh, yes.
Over here snorting and grunting.
You can never say I don't pay attention to you.
I think I've just made up a new word. I'm over here grunting.
Grunting. Well, look, that's what we do down here in the South. All right, number 3, steer the conversation away from hot button topics. Now, this thing can sometimes be easier said than done.
Definitely. It's not sometimes possible even, but if you're getting into really dangerous territory and you know that bad things are coming down the line, if you can distract everyone, open presents, go for a walk, do something to distract everybody from the conversation that is turning down a dark path, then you can head off some of those major arguments and blow-ups. And I understand that it's really hard and sometimes not possible, and I have bit my tongue a lot over the years.
I think we all have at some point,
yes.
Because you have to, but one of the hardest things about steering the conversation away from hot button topics is more times than not, I found for me, when I would try to move the conversation away, they instantly want to bring the conversation back. Right. For whatever reason, because they don't think you're taking them seriously or something like that. So how do you deal with them getting angry because you won't dive down this deep hole with them on this topic? Because trust me, there's going to come times when it's going to upset them that you're not willing to sit down and have this conversation.
Yeah, it is. It's a really hard balancing act sometimes. If they're getting angry that you won't talk about it, I think that you have to take that step back again, like I said earlier, and just say, we're all here for family and to get together because we all love each other. And this conversation is turning down a path that I think we are all going to be at each other's throats. Maybe we should just step back from it and try something else for a little while.
Exactly.
It's really hard to be the voice of reason when your blood is boiling too, but sometimes in order to keep the peace, you have to.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Rebecca was in the chat room was talking about setting boundaries. Here's where the boundaries come in, right? You can steer the conversation away from the hot button issues. But number 4 says, don't be a doormat. Right? We are not there to take your abuse.
Right.
And that's when I think that's where boundaries come in, especially when it comes to the concept of don't be a doormat.
Definitely.
Right.
Were you going to add something there, Jerry?
Yeah, I would simply say that what this always brings to my mind is something I've talked about several times, which is emotional Aikido. And if you don't know what Aikido is, Google it real quick, but it's a form of martial arts. And I just pulled up a definition of it that I really like. And it says this: martial arts are studied for self-defense and improvement, but Aikido is different from other martial arts in that the practitioners seek to defend themselves without causing injury to their attackers. And that's the reason that always comes to my mind, is that there comes a time when we do have to defend ourselves. We do have to take a more defensive posture. But as humanists, and as Bobby mentioned earlier, trying to save relationships, trying to not, lose a lifelong relationship over a temporary election, we do have to find that balance, and we do have to find verbal techniques that can throw our what is an opponent off balance and send them flying a different direction without doing harm. And a couple of ways that I've learned to do that is to question in a very polite, loving way. Just ask a question, ask for more information. Just keep them on the defensive by continuously asking questions. Well, such and such said, oh, really? Well, how do you know that? And where does it say that? That is one of the fastest ways to end a Bible conversation, is to say, really, where does it say that? Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's really cool. I'd love to go back and read that. Can you tell me the chapter and verse?
And no, they can't.
And of course they can't. And they know they can't. And they know at that moment that the last thing they need to do is continue to try to quote scripture.
Well, I would tell you a situation that I ran into from just that type of comment, right? Someone was witnessing to me, someone I work with, and they're like, well, the Bible says, and I said, oh, okay. Where in the Bible? Right. And they didn't know. So I quoted chapter and verse, book, chapter and verse to them. Their comment was, well, Satan knows the Bible better than Jesus did. I'm like, wait. What?
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard that one too.
Satan knew, because Satan quoted scripture to Jesus when he was in the desert, right? And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. The fact that I've actually read my Bible, you just made me Satan. Because Satan knows the scripture better than anyone,
Right.
So just when you were talking about that situation came to my mind, just because I do know the Bible better than most people doesn't,
right.
But I agree with you. When they're sitting there telling you what their Bible says and you question them, oh, I would love to look into that. Where in the Bible is it? Right? All they're doing most of the time is they're parroting what they hear their pastor say from the pulpit.
Sure.
Instead of actually looking it up and reading it. So I agree. That is a great way to stop that conversation. What I found another way to do it is tell them, hey, you know what? I happen to have this radio show. We'd love to have you on and have you discuss that.
Yeah, called No Religion Required.
Trust me. Look.
I'll write that one down.
I can't tell you how many times I've been going back and forth with people on social media. And finally, I'll just say, you know what? I do a great radio show. Why don't you come join me and talk about it? You never hear from them again.
That's exactly right.
That's a great way to put them on the spot. You want to talk about it? Here we go. Let's do it in front of the world.
And this shows a little bit of my darker side, which some of you know I have, some of you don't know. Some of you have yet to accept the fact that I have a darker side. But one thing that I've learned to do, and you can't do this with every relative or friend that may be trying to, dominate a conversation religiously or politically, but I like to facetiously agree with my adversary and take it one step further than they were willing to go. And it is hilarious how it shuts it down. Like I'm trying to create a scenario in my mind so that it would make sense. If someone's like, well, That's what happens whenever, they're not allowed to pray in school, is you have all those young girls getting pregnant, and so instead of like, well, actually the statistics are, and the reason they can't pray in school, it's not that they can't pray in school, but it's that the teachers can't lead the class, but yet a student, instead of getting into all of the stuff that we know is true,
right?
Be like, yeah, all those little whores, maybe they'll all die of STDs.
Wow, that's love
then,
right there.
And then they're like, whoa, wait a minute. No, you're right. They deserve that. Going out and having
whoring around, I tell you.
Yeah, exactly. And so just agreeing, be like, they're whoa.
Wait a minute.
Wait a second. So there are ways to take the conversation back, but it does take a lot of energy and it does take practice. But at the same time, we have to ask ourselves, do we even want to do that?
Or is it, or we got to ask ourselves, is it even worth it? Is it worth going through the turmoil,
right,
to do that? So, I can't speak for Jerry, y'all, but I speak for me. I'm tired.
Right.
I'm tired, This has been an ongoing battle for years now, and I'm just tired of the battle sometimes. There's nothing wrong with taking a break from the turmoil, from the drama, because you get tired. I'm just tired. Did I tell you I'm tired? I'm tired.
I'm getting the feeling, Bobby, correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes my sensitivity isn't exactly right, but I'm starting, just from things I'm hearing you say, piecing it together in my mind, I'm starting to feel like maybe you might be tired.
Jerry, you never cease to amaze me with just...
Jerry, does Bobby sound tired to you?
I was gonna message you on the side, Angie, and say, does it sound like maybe Bobby might be getting tired?
It seems like it a little bit.
Look, this is such
a text Miss Ashley, because I'm thinking Bobby might be.
This is this just goes to show how great our bromance is, that you're just that in tuned.
But I can feel it.
Yeah, just
when you're tired, I'm tired.
I know, it's amazing. It's the bromance. I'm telling you. I mean, I'm flabbergasted by how in tuned you are. That's absolutely amazing, Jerry. I'm just tired.
Well, I'm with you, because I'm tired as well, and I don't even, most of the time I don't even bother. I hear people trying to figure out what to say when somebody says bless you, or I'm praying for you, or whatever. And I'm just, I'm just like, just give me my damn groceries, just whatever. Bless
Can I get
me,
my damn change, please?
Yeah. If you pray for me right now, can somebody else push my buggy back over there to the cart? Because I'm just too tired to fool with it. I just,
Yeah, well, let me tell you how I finally was able to be okay with someone telling me that they're praying for me. For me, that used to be the biggest slap in the face to me. If you know that I'm a non-believer and you still look me in the eyes, oh, I'm praying for you. That used to be the biggest slap in the face. But I had to change the way I thought about that. Now when someone says, I'm praying for you, instead of going negative, I thank them for caring enough about me to pray for me.
Sure.
I changed my perception of it. Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad you cared enough that you'd want to do that for me.
Right.
And what that does, it builds a bridge instead of tearing one down. You know, and of course that's one of our core values, is building that bridge. So, it's just funny when you mentioned about praying, that I was like, maybe if there's someone listening and you have someone telling you, I'm praying for you, maybe if you change the way you think about that and just say, I'm thankful that you cared enough for me to do that, it'll change everything for you.
And, I, coming from the pastor side, I'm with you, Bobby. When somebody says they're praying for me, or I really think someone really is praying for me, I'm appreciative of it.
Sure.
I really am.
Because it means
But
something to them.
there's also a part of me knowing so many believers and being one, having been one myself. When they're like, "Well, I'm praying for," I'm like, "No, you not.
Prove it.
You are not.
Let me see
You
your log.
freaking liar. You're not praying for me or anybody else. You might be saying, now lay me down to sleep, for 30 seconds before you go to bed, and maybe try to stretch it out and think, that you're actually praying. But now with Facebook on your phone, and you never have to be bored again. All of that spare time, free time, is completely filled. There is no way people are praying like they say they're praying. No way. It's hard. Praying is hard.
It is.
Praying is one of the most difficult challenges that you'll ever have. It is extremely hard.
Okay, I have to sidetrack us a little bit then.
Oh, like we haven't already been sidetracking ourselves?
We've tossed the topic out of the window anyway. So
no, we haven't. We still got number 5.
Yeah. Well, when I was in junior high, my mom remarried. I think I told you guys this in pre-show. My stepfather was Lutheran. And I guess in his family, the tradition had always been when they pray over meals to say this cutesy little rhyming prayer. Come, Lord Jesus, be our guest. Let these gifts to us be blessed. Amen. And the first time we did that, when I was a kid, I was a cocky teenager at the time anyway, I almost started laughing because it was just the silliest thing I'd ever heard.
Right.
And it just brought it to my mind when you said that praying is hard. I don't think I've ever heard anyone pray hard in my family.
Well, and you may not have, because it obviously there's all different types of prayers, just like there's all different types of prayers. That idea of someone actually sitting down and giving a supplemental prayer on behalf of someone else, if they're really doing that, if they're really turning the television off, kneeling down next to their bed, closing their eyes, shutting out all their other thoughts, trying to commune with what they believe to be God, and spending that what can be agonizing time supplementing, for someone else, then they deserve some appreciation for that, because I think most people are saying little rhymes in their head. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think at the dinner table, I remember one time being said, across the ceiling, down the wall, thank the Lord for it all. And I was like, well, all right then. It's just the rhyming things when you talked about that. I remember that. Across the ceiling, down the wall, thank the Lord for it all. Amen. Right?
Oh, that blows my mind. I didn't grow up in that world. I didn't live in that kind of religious world. I mean, we didn't say grace at home. We didn't say grace at home. That just, I don't know exactly why we didn't. I know there was a certain part of us that we tried not to be too overly spiritual at home, so that Paul would kind of have a little bit of a normal world and not feel like he was at church 24 hours a day.
Right.
But when we prayed, I mean, it was an attempt at true communication. It really was. It was an attempt at true communication. And I just wasn't there. I'm jealous for everybody who was.
Well, one last thing about prayer before we move to number 5. I can remember many, many nights being knelt by my bed, and I had heard a sermon that a pastor had done, and he said the problem with prayer is we're too busy talking instead of listening. And I took that to heart. It's kind of hard to hear somebody talk to you when you're talking all the time.
Sure.
So I would kneel by my bed and just be silent, waiting to hear the voice of God.
Right.
Never heard him, but I was there and present and ready, But just hearing that, saying it's hard to hear someone when you're talking all the time, that is so much more real in life than just prayer.
Sure.
And there have been many times that I'm talking to Christian friends or talking to Christian family that sometimes I just had to shut up, because sometimes you need to stop talking so that maybe you can listen to the heart of the other person talking. If you can stop talking and listen to the compassion behind the words, if there is some there, that helps a lot.
Right.
So sometimes you need to hush so that you can hear what someone else is saying. Not just listen to the words, but hear what they're saying.
And a big part of that, hearing what someone says, is actually repeating it back to them.
Yes.
So that they know, and so that that at least you got it right to the extent that you know the words that they said. You may not always be able to perceive their meaning, but I think that's fantastic. And when I'm in someone else's home, when I'm in someone else's jurisdiction, if you will, I feel even less obligated to be a good atheist witness.
Mm-hmm.
I would just as soon be able to get along and go along. Now, I would never do or say anything that would violate my conscience. Like, for instance, before we leave prayer, when everyone else bows their head, closes their eyes, I generally don't do either.
Mm-hmm.
I just sit there. I just sit there quietly. Now, I've talked about it on the show before. Paul Aaron, he'll go a step beyond that, and he'll take a big drink of something while everybody's in the middle of prayer.
Right.
So when they say amen, they can hear his cup hit the table. That's not me, and that's him. But I has to approach this from a deep understanding of their own conscience.
Yes. And folks, listen, there's nothing wrong with sitting around the dinner table with your Christian family, holding hands and letting them say prayer. It doesn't mean you have to bow your head or you have to take part in it, but there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's been times that Ashley and I sat around my parents' table and hold hands while my dad blessed the food. That's just a matter of respect, right?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to go storming out of the room, go to another room because you're not listening to none of this Jesus crap. So there's nothing wrong with holding hands. If nothing else, you're feeling a connection of family, right?
Sure.
And you just don't bow your head. You sit there quietly, right? And let them go through their ritual. It's not hurting you any. So just sit there quietly. All right. So moving on. Our time is ticking here.
All right.
The last step in your article was remove yourself temporarily.
Yes. And I think I said this earlier too. Just if you can go for a walk or go for a drive around town. And in the article, I said to invite friendly or family members along. I have found, at least, that if I don't leave by myself, then it isn't perceived as, oh, Angie stomped off in a huff. Now she's mad at all of us. But if I can take other people with me, then it's just we're going to go and walk off our dinner, and that's all it is.
Right. Yep. And you end the article with holidays can be stressful for atheists from religious families, but that stress doesn't have to build into an epic explosion. Try to remember some of these coping mechanisms this Christmas, and everyone might make it out unscathed. This was an amazing article, Angie. Thank you so much for sharing it with the Hope After Faith family.
Well, thank you.
Because I agree with all 5 steps. Completely agree with all 5 steps. And folks, I'm telling you, go look at this article. It's on hopeafterfaithpodcast.com. Click on the blog, and it's there. Read over it. Read it tonight or tomorrow before you take your trip to spend some time with your family. Get these steps in your mind before you ever walk through the front door of your parents' house. Right? Walk in with a game plan already together. Here's how I'm going to handle this. Here's how I'm going to handle that. This, if you have a game plan when you walk in, at least you have some type of structure and you have an idea of what you're going to do before you get there. It's hard.
Definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, we all know our families best, and which techniques are going to work best in your family situation. So yeah, like you say, just try and plan ahead for anything that might come up or that has come up in the past that you can try to derail.
Right. But I also want to let it be known, don't get so deep into planning ahead and looking at all the negatives that you're going to have to deal with, because that creates stress. That creates, a negative emotion before you ever walk through the door. Don't get so wrapped up in it that you walk in like, oh, right? You don't get to,
because they can sense it.
Oh, trust me.
Oh, definitely.
They can sense that negative energy, right? And I know that's really woo, talking about energy and stuff. But
it's so wooey.
I know.
Wooey gooey.
Dadgummit. I should have been a woo practitioner. But trust me, they can feel that negative energy, that negative emotion. They can feel it the time you walk through the door. Walk in there with a positive mindset. This is how I'm going to make this work, right? I love my family. They love me. We got some differences. We have these differences. So now, how are we going to make this work to where all of us has an amazing holiday together, an amazing family time together, and us be able to leave the situation better than it was when we found it? That's the goal.
Yeah. I love that. Yep.
I completely agree with that. And I think it's important, and I emphasize this probably on every show, but the way that we keep atheism, or even humanism for that matter, from becoming another religion in our lives — it obviously can't be a religion in the technical sense, but a religion in our lives — is to put forth the energy to truly know ourselves and know why we're doing what we're doing and making those decisions on purpose. In other words, there is no right nor wrong way for an atheist to act at a family gathering when religion and politics comes up or whatever else may affect this subject.
That's true.
There's no right way. There's no wrong way. This isn't a religion that has dictates. This isn't a religion that you have to be a good witness for. And so if what is best for you is on one side of the scale, walking in and just agreeing with everybody who's there and saying, yeah, President-elect Trump is a dream come true, and Jesus will be back before, he's even in office. Whatever fits your conscience and works for you is the point.
Yes.
That's the whole point. That's why you've made this sacrifice thus far. That's why you investigated this subject, because you were seeking truth and thus seeking a true version of you. And so you do what you need to do. If, on the other hand, if what is true for you is walking in and tearing your whole family apart and leaving your grandmother in tears and having people take, your presents back because you had to stand your ground and tell them everything about the fallacies from Noah's Ark to the book of Revelation, then that's you. And that's, what you're probably going to do regardless of whether you listen to this show or not, if that happens to be you. But the thing is if you're trying to find a balance, we've got ideas, because we've been there and we've done that can give you something to work with if that's what you're looking for. Yes.
Yeah. And I think it also depends a lot on the history with your family too. Someone had mentioned to me, and I had never thought about it, if your family has been abusive to you, then I don't think this is the article that you should be going by, because
exactly
personally, I would cut everybody off if they had been abusive to me. That's just my personality. But, that's why I said earlier, it really depends on your family. Only you know what is going to work best in your family situation.
Yes,
that's right.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. Thank you for that.
That's a fantastic point. And that is exactly the point, is that the moment that when someone finds their way, oh my gosh, this is the analogy we used in church. This is the analogy I preached using. When someone finds the way, that's spirituality. When they find their way, that's spirituality. When the next person copies the first person's way, that's religion. That's the way we looked at that. That's why we didn't feel like we were religious. That's, and obviously we now know differences in definitions and so forth. But I think the principles are still true. If you feel obligated to duplicate the way that one of us lives or acts, then you're not really getting the point of the whole process. So you would have to, if you come from an abusive family, you have to be free to say, I don't care what it makes them think about all future atheists. What's best for me is to not have anything to do with them.
Yes, right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that, because there's no such thing as an atheist witness.
No.
The moment that we feel like we have to be witnesses for atheism or even witnesses for humanism, then we're kind of missing one of the major points. So I think, and I could be wrong.
Really?
I know it shuts y'all down.
I'm thinking, has there ever been a time that Jerry?
No. We know. I was saying that just for the sake of making a connection with mere mortals. We know
it's just a hypothetical, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like in an alternate dimension, it might be possible.
Yeah.
I don't mean literally.
I mean, you just had me all confused. Like, wait, what? Wrong.
Yeah. No. Don't let your hearts be troubled.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Because I was going through.
You believe in perfection. Believe also in me.
Yeah, I was going through heart palpitations. I said, okay, good. Well, Angie, thank you so much for giving this article to the family. I honestly think that if you're in the right situation, of course, that the 5 steps in this article can very easily help you have an amazing holiday season. Just walk in there with the right mindset. Walk in there with the right attitude, right? Walk in there with the mind and the heart focused on love instead of the differences between the two. Trust me, we know there's going to be that elephant in the room. We know that. Expect it to be there. But just because the elephant is in the room doesn't mean you have to give it any attention.
Right.
Enjoy your time with your family. Enjoy your time, the time together. Maybe you're meeting with family that you only see once a year. Enjoy your time together. Don't focus on all the negative aspects of, you want them atheists, right? Don't let that interfere with your time with your family.
Right.
Because that's what this is all about. Spending time with our loved ones, spending time with those people that we've missed and that we enjoy spending time with. And by all means, go through this article. Look at all the steps, hold on to your compassion, breathe, do these things. And I promise it will change the way your holiday goes from now until Jesus comes.
Right. Exactly.
And most of all, love each other. Yeah. Love each other, regardless of the differences. Just love each other. It's not that hard to do. You can do it. I got faith in you. Got to have faith in somebody.
Well, oftentimes we could be seen as proclaiming this realization of our atheism as the end all be all of our human development. I tend to think that it's actually just the beginning of our development as healthy individuals. And so one of the tests that we face when we walk into these environments, knowing that there are people there who think less of us than they did before, is to not think less of ourselves. Just because we know that they think less of us now does not mean we have to think less of ourselves. And this is a test. This is a challenge. This takes strength. This takes internal fortitude. This takes a level of self-compassion and a level of confidence. So it really can be a test, but it's a test that pays off. And if, just echoing what you said, Bobby, if we walk into the room with this confidence, not feeling as if we're bad because people in the room think we're bad, then we'll be less defensive, we'll be more comfortable, we'll be more relaxed, we'll be more positively responsive, and all of that will allow us to love better and to enjoy our time more thoroughly.
Darwin.
Well, Angie, thank you very much for joining us. And you know what? Thank you for all the work you do for for this radio show.
It's ridiculous.
I'm happy to do every bit of it. I have had a lot of fun with it.
Well, I just wanted to publicly thank you for everything. Folks, the Hope After Faith podcast .com page, if you haven't gone over and looked at that, spend some time over there and just appreciate all the hours and all the hard work that Angie has put into that site. I mean, that site, if I can use a Christian word, is a testament to the
I'll allow it.
To the many to the many talents that you have when it comes from blogging and just writing. You've helped me in the last week on my writing. Guys, she loves that red pen. But do me a favor and let everyone know where they can find you. If they want to contact you, just put all your information out there for people to find you.
Okay. On Twitter, I am the other A word. And Facebook, I have fairly locked down, but if you're on the Hope After Faith listener page and you spot me on there, you can friend me that way, I think. Those are probably the best two ways to get a hold of me.
Okay. Now you do have your own blog, right? The other A word.
I do. I post on it very sporadically.
Okay.
So,
well,
yeah, you could definitely go over there.
Yes.
My whole is over there, but I don't post on it really very frequently.
Well, y'all, she may not post on it recently, but there's some great articles over there. I have spent the better part of a half a day on that site reading articles that Angie has written. She may not post to it too often. That's okay. There's a lot of information on there for you to go look and learn something because she's an amazing writer. It's the otherAword.com. Trust me, you will spend a half a day reading those articles. So it's
well, thank you.
Sure, it's very, very good. So it may be not updated regularly, but there's a lot of education there. Angie, thank you so much. We love you.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I love you guys too. This has been a lot of fun.
Okay, well, hang out with us because after we get off the air, we still want to talk with you, okay?
Sounds good.
Because you in trouble? Ooh, you in trouble.
Oh, now I'm scared. Jerry's going to preach at me.
That's right.
I may do it.
You in trouble. Ooh.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Well, guys, as we bring this week's show to a close, please go visit and spend some time over on our new website, hopeafterfaithpodcast.com. Remember that if you are an Android user or someone who is not an iTunes user, you can go over there and you can leave us a rating right there on our site. And I'm hearing myself on somebody's speakers. You can leave a comment there. You actually give us a 5-star rating and everything right there. You can actually go to that website and listen live. That feed starts playing on its own. It's like like Jesus magic or something. The show will start playing on its own. You can listen live and chat right there on that website. And that's, like I said, that's a testament to Angie. Jerry, I didn't have a lot of time to look at iTunes tonight, so I'm not sure if we have any new iTunes ratings. If we do, thank you. I promise you, if you wrote something to us on iTunes, I'll make sure that we get that information out to folks and let them know how great you think we are, how terrible you think we are.
No, let's only let people know how great they think we are.
Yeah. No,
let's just hide the other stuff.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good
Remember,
idea.
They can leave ratings at the site now,
yes,
too.
I think I mentioned that, but if I didn't, y'all can. Okay.
Exactly.
Keep in mind.
Put that back out there again.
That's right. Keep in mind that you can find us on Facebook.com/HopeAfterFaith. We're also on Twitter at Hope After Faith. And listen, we do have a closed group called a Hope After Faith listener page on Facebook. This is a great page for you to go join the group. It's a private and a closed group that you don't have to worry about people that you don't want to know that maybe you're sticking your head out of the closet and looking around. It's a great place for you to go and meet the family, have an opportunity to make lifetime friends. We're having more and more people daily join that group. So if you'd like to get together with other like-minded people, that's a great way for you to do it. And we truly do have a great Hope After Faith listener family that is growing daily over on the Hope After Faith listener page. Jerry, do me a favor, man. Let them know about Team DeWitt, how you guys are doing, what's next on the agenda, and the whole ordeal.
They can look us up by simply going to jerrydewitt.net. That will take them to our Patreon page where they'll see everything that Team DeWitt has had going on. It's been a little bit slow just the last couple of months because of some transitional issues, but Paul and I will be in the same space for about a week. Hopefully starting tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Cool.
And we hope that gives us the opportunity to treat our patrons with some new content. There's a lot of neat things that are on the board for the beginning of next year that I'm very excited about. And to beat Bobby and Angie to the punch, if anyone is interested in life coaching, they can just contact me. Right now, probably one of the best ways is just to reach me through Facebook, and we will begin a conversation there to see if there is the possibility of a relationship. But that is about it tonight, Bobby. Okay,
and also Angie is currently working on a page for the life coaching on the Hope After Faith podcast.com page. It is still in the works, but we're hoping after everything calms down for the holidays, we'll work together and get that up and going for you guys. Listen,
yeah, the page is there, and there's an email address too if you can't find Jerry on Facebook.
Fantastic. That's even better.
Tell you what, she's
got it covered.
I tell you what, she's jamming, man.
It doesn't matter what it is. She's so far ahead of me. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
She's got it going on.
Yes, sir.
Got to keep the bromance on an even keel here.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
Well, listen, folks. We hope you have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Winter Solstice, or whatever it is that you celebrate this time of the year. We hope that it's a joyous time for the family that you choose to spend it with, whether it's your blood family or your secular family, whatever family that is. We hope that it is a joyous time for you, that it's a relaxing time and a time for you to get together and just be with those you love. For the Secular Media Network and Hope After Faith. Until next time.
Be brave, my friends.
It's lonely when you fade away in a lifetime. And it's lonely when you're out in space with no lifeline. And slowly then you turn around and you notice the length and the time when your heart stops beating. Oh, why won't you come settle down Stop wasting your time and your mind going on believing. No, this won't change. Lord knows you know I can't tell where I'm going, to heaven or falling in hell are my predictions. I only speak what I have heard, and the sound of your words condemn my soul while my soul is here just bleeding. You know my love, it won't hurt. Stop wasting your time and your mind going on believing. Oh, this won't change.